All right, YouTube. So in this video, I'm going over how to actually test and what should you use your test for and how should you do it and all of this good stuff. So here's why most email testing is just absolutely a complete waste of time. You can even also like email testing, if it's conversion rate optimization testing, if it's your ads testing or whatever. Most agencies, they just test in order to test and they can tell their clients, oh, we tested this. So let's be honest, most e-commerce brands, they're doing this all wrong. They're running tests without proper sample sizes, declaring winners just because and based on insignificant results, testing trivial elements that actually don't have an impact on revenue. For this, I saw like a LinkedIn post. She was saying like, oh, I tested this and her sample size was like 200 people, and the other sample size were like 200,000 people. So fucking brain dead. Sorry. But yeah, failing to document or implement learnings, making decisions based on gut feeling rather than data. I should mark this in bold actually, because most e-commerce brand owners, they just test on their gut feeling, and gut feeling is okay in some areas, but on data and what you're testing, you can't rely on it, right? So that typically results in wasted hours and just wasted your budget and your time. You could be doing other things. So in this guide, I'll go through everything and how we should approach it and what to look for and the metrics and so on to drive meaningful growth. So who am I? I'm JP, or Jeppe Skroda. I'm the co-founder of Marketing, where we help e-commerce brands from all over the world. Now we made our name in Denmark and Scandinavia. So yeah, we just love scaling e-commerce brands. You can find me here. You'll get access to this Gamma doc as usual. I'll paste it in the description just down below, where you can have a look at this yourself. So what's the real purpose? Before diving into all the methods and so on, what should we really accomplish? The primary goal is to actually or systematically improve revenue performance through iterative data-driven optimization. Nothing else. That's why you test things. It's only to increase revenue. So it's not about finding what works in isolation, validating your personal preferences, keeping up with competitors, and you're just testing for the sake of testing, just as I mentioned. So it's about building a reliable system that always improves your most important metric, revenue. I should mark this in bold also, actually. So here's the 3 levels. I won't say all of this, but strategic test has the highest impact. This is where you really can look at your changing the customer experience for your customers, right? The second one is tactical test, which have the medium impact, and then the element test is the lowest impact. So that's sort of like subject lines and your button columns and so on. This is not going to drive incremental amount of revenue. It's up here you're going to do that, right? So you want to build this the way I've put here, the testing hierarchy. You should prioritize your testing in how big of a potential impact it can have, right? Should also have a calendar for this. You should do make sure that you are actually getting reliable results. You want to document all of this. So what you did, for example, last year, Black Friday, you want to test something different this year, right? And then you can compare it. Like, I shouldn't have to mention this, but I have to. And you want to implement taste in the process. You want to translate that's what you're saying you're going to do to actually do it. Again, I shouldn't have to say this, but I am. So let's break this one down one by one. What to test first? Most common mistake, they actually focus on low impact. So I say, oh, we tested this subject line, we tested this preview text, we tested this CTA and yada yada. Don't. The strategic test, which probably drives the biggest revenue for you, you should test that quarterly. All right. Then you move into the next one, which you test monthly. I'm a big offer guy, so I'd say like offer is also one of the biggest things you can do. But when you're sending out 4 to 6 campaigns a week, you're like, oh, what can I test like an offer? But again, you can play around with the wording and which offer you can message your customers, right? Tier 3, message and creative test. Obviously, weekly. These are the smaller tests that you can do and the different kinds of ideas and so on. And then you want to test the elements, which is these one. So hierarchy test will have more impact on your revenue. So if you, for example, test just one of these automated flow structures, that will weigh out way more than your footer structure or copy tweaks and so on. Again, copy is essential for e-commerce. You should have this in place already. So if it's a small tweak, that's why it's down here. And you want to go and create a systematic approach. So don't just test randomly. Again, I won't go too into detail about this because this is you'll get access to this doc, but quarterly, monthly, and do the weekly. Don't test daily because you just drown yourself and you won't actually get anything out of it. And you want valid results. So For example, when we test things out for an open rate, we want a minimum of 3,000. So just imagine 3,000 people standing in a line. Let's say they have their phone and they're actually opening emails. 3,000 of these should be enough. Click rate 5,000, conversion rate 10,000, revenue per recipient go for 15,000. All right, that's like the minimum sample size that we use. Some agencies might have another number. This is just like, yeah, what worked for us and our clients. Again, smaller tests can be effectively, but you should, make this your primary. So, for example, open rate versus conversion rate, these are two way different tests that you want to run, right? So maybe run them for a bit of a longer period, and you want to test frequently with larger samples. And you never want to declare a winner without proper statistical confidence. So minimum 95 confidence level for implementing changes. That means if you're like 50-50, you're unsure if you should test this or not, then don't test it, right? Don't test it. You want to get at least 30% test for, also lift for open rate, 20% click rate, 10% for your conversion. This is a bit of a not a mystery, but if your website isn't converting, what are you going to do? It's probably nothing to do with your email marketing. It's more about conversion rate, right? So take this with a grain of salt, but still look at it and take it into the deeper level of it. So most ESP setting tools like Klaviyo, Mailchimp, ActiveCampaign, and yada yada, you can't really rely on that. So you could use a calculator like Optimize Leads if you want that accurate results. Just a quick, I don't have an affiliate link or anything. Just we use it on some cases. So for strategic tests, we will always want to have a control group because that allows ones to measure the true impact of changes. Again, it ties into the other things. One, control for external factors. If you sell swimwear brand, don't test in the summertime versus wintertime, right? And if you have different kind of promotions, new product launches, whatever. So that prevents all the false conclusions and you fucking your test up. So capturing and applying insights. If you don't document your test and what you find out, it's like pouring water into a leaky bucket. You might as well just give me your money, right? So you want to create a central, I can never say this word, central repository for test results that includes test information, results data, and action items. So please have this structured because you're going to run a lot of different tests. And if you don't have this in place, you're just going to drown. Might as well just don't do it then. So implement this frequency test, standard versus increased frequency. You could do time-based, behavior-based, day of the week, send time. We found this actually a bit funny. So if we have a fashion brand that are selling like higher end fashion, when we send out in the evening, there's way more revenue coming through than it is if we send it like in the morning at 7, 8, 9 or a.m. So that's a fun time, but our first fun test. Please, you want to test it out on another brand. It actually makes sense. It's the same as a fashion brand, same niche and all this, but they make the most money when we actually send in the morning. So again, if we haven't tested this out, we would never have found out, right? We could do some segmentation test if it's behavior. Yeah, again, behavior segments, behavioral, or you want to do a demographic segment because if you have a good demographic, you want to speak to those clients. So don't, again, use the same demographic for all of your testing. Put them into like groups and then test from there, right? Engagement based, content preferences, product categories, content types. Purchase history segmentation. Again, if you have a VIP customer that's bought from you for like 8 times, probably not gonna run that test with another dude that has just bought once, right? Want to test the offers, as I mentioned, discount percentage versus dollar. This is what I talked about in another video that also you do in your pop-up forms. Free shipping, bundle offers, single product discounts, tier promotion, spend more, save more. All of this stuff that you should obviously test every single month, quarter, maybe. Content approach. Lifestyle, product focus depends on your brand and your communication and your positioning. Do you want to do educational or promotional? If you want to test this, don't do it, against each other because educational will never be the promotional sales that you get test and revenue you get from this. UGC, brand created assets, again, please test it out. Long form versus short form. Is it a quick email or long email? Is it much text? Is it a plain text? Is it a design? Is it a hybrid? Play around with this. So again, in the designs, test a lot of different combinations. Designs are I know it's like subjectively, but there are best practices which will be in one of the future videos. But again, test a lot of different things. Sometimes it might just be a plain text that is actually driving the most of the revenue. So again, don't rely on one single thing. So what are like the different email types? Well, if you do campaign testing, that's another thing, from doing the flow to the welcome series to the abandoned card to the pop-up and all of this good stuff that you actually want to test. Always create, obviously, when you're doing A/B split test, just test one variant at a time. Don't do one thing and then do 6 other things in the other email, right? And flow testing, let's see, for automated flows. For example, I can give you the best example I can give you is sometimes we have a client where we say, okay, let's measure the performance. You have your flow, and we'll implement our flow, and we'll just compare the two. It's the same. It's not the same structure, but it's the same offer and so on, and we beat them every single time. So this is how you test flows. You don't turn off the one flow and let the other run. You simultaneously test this with different kind of people coming in the flow, right? Obviously an equal period. It shouldn't be like back November and the other test is done in January, right? Makes sense. For the welcome series and all the abandoned card and the flows and whatnot, again, test one email at a time. Begin with the first email because that is where the most people are coming in, especially when you're testing out different kind of offers, or if it's a plain text, or it's a hybrid, or it's a designed email, it's a long email, it's a short email, whatever. The most volume will come here, so you can draw a conclusion way faster, right? Way faster. This ties into all, this is email types, but it ties into also your pop-up form, your sign-up forms, and your offers for your pop-ups, right? So when we talk about mistakes, this is what I see when I'm going over a Klaviyo or another email account. Declaring winners too early, they just, I don't know. So let's say the example I gave, like she was testing one for was 2,000 recipients and the other had like 200,000. Like made no sense at all. No sense. Testing too many variables at once. For example, I don't think I need to explain this too much, but test one thing at a time. So if you want to test a different CTA, only change the CTA. If you want to test the offer, only change the offer. If you want to test the design, only change the design. That shouldn't be have to mention, but I'm doing it because many accounts they run an A/B split test, and it's just two completely different kind of emails that make no sense. They have no like in Denmark we call it a red thread, but they have like no. Is it synergy? I don't know, but yeah, it didn't make sense at all. Ignore external factors, especially working with marketing and e-commerce. Sometimes external factors happen. If we just take the world we're living in now with Trump and the USA and the tariffs and whatnot, you can't test and compare what happened just like 3 months ago, right? So take that into account. Testing relevant elements, as I mentioned before, you want to do low impact tests. You can't compare them to the high impact tests. Improper segmentation, again, as I mentioned, 2,000 and 200,000. That's not a good test to run. So you can't do that. Failing to repeat test. If you want to make permanent changes based on one-time result, the solution is just to validate the significant findings with follow-up tests. So if you're wondering, oh, why did this? Oh, that's an outlier. Just test it again and see what happens, okay? Last thing, not testing at all. You'd be surprised how many e-commerce brands or agencies think they're testing and think they're actually moving forward. They're just not. They just do the testing so they can report back and say, oh, we tested it. They don't do anything with the data that they have. And it's the same in their Meta Ads account. They say, oh, we tested this. Nothing actually got tested at all. So your return on investment should be way better when you're continuously testing. That's why I always say to leads. Oh, sorry, not leads. That's always what I speak with potential. What's it called? One of the words I'm looking for. Businesses. All these businesses that I talk with, I make sure they understand like the value of continuously being able to test different kind of things and not just set it up and forget. Because if you set it up and forget, you won't get the maximum value out of this. So again, these are the metrics that we aim for, because that is what we see on all of our clients, where we can increase, just by testing and see what works. So on annual revenue, it translates to almost like 250,000, maybe 500,000, 500,000 in annual revenue. If you have 100,000 subscribers, if you have 10,000, probably not gonna make this much money. Otherwise, tell me how you do it. So what's my final thoughts? You learn faster, you adapt, You continuously improve, you build institutional knowledge, and all the tests that you have is what you also can use in the future. So you make decisions based on data and not your opinions and not your gut feelings or your personal preference. Because the brands that are going to win this game are actually the ones that are going to test and just win and adapt and improve. So do you want us this handle for you? You can book a call right here. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. It's a quick 15-minute call. We'll go over your account and see is there anything that we can help you with. If not, I'll give you some more of the tips and whatnot. This was just about testing. I'll have a lot more tips. Otherwise, go on the YouTube channel, obviously. If you want an 80-page email marketing Bible, you can click here and get set into and get that. So that's it for this video. Now you know how to test, what to look for, and how to do it. I hope that helps. If not, shoot me a comment right down below. Otherwise, thank you for watching and peace.